Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to Beyond Dope. This is episode 7. Okay, we are going to start off with the serenity prayer like we always do. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So it's been a busy week. We got a couple of good comments in, and a lot of new followers, a lot of new listeners, which I am extremely grateful for. The comments keep them coming. They were fantastic. I'm getting ahead of myself, actually. Today's reading is Alcoholics Anonymous, page 85. How do I maintain my spiritual condition? For me, it's quite simple. On a daily basis, I ask my higher power to grant me the gift of sobriety for that day. I have talked to many alcoholics who have gone back to drinking, and I always ask them, did you pray for sobriety the day you took your first drink? Not one of them said yes. As I practice step 10 and try to keep my house in order on a daily basis, I have the knowledge that if I ask for a daily reprieve, it will be granted. AA thought for the day. What am I going to do for AA? Is there someone I should call on the telephone or someone I should go to see? Is there a letter I should write? Is there an opportunity somewhere to advance the work of AA which I have been putting off or neglecting? If so, will I do it today? Will I be done with procrastination and do what I have to do today? Tomorrow may be too late. How do I know there will be a tomorrow for me? How about getting out of my easy chair and getting going? Do I feel that AA depends partly on me today? Okay, so a couple things I wrote down for this reading, because it's kind of, preachy. What am I going to do for AA? Maybe I need to write a letter, this, that, and the other. So I know some people don't, abide by the whole AA. I mean, I think it's great. I think that it's helped me a lot. But I think just like with everything else, there's, pros and cons. And you kind of have to find your own way in everything. There's been times where I've bought in 100% to AA, and there's been times where I've bought in 0%. I find that I was the most successful when I bought in, 70%, and I, applied what needed to be applied to me, because we know ourselves a lot better than a lot better than anybody, and we know that terrible addict that lives inside of us. So rather than, what can I do for AA today, I ask, what can I do for my sobriety today? And is that, we all know what's going to keep us at bay. We all know ourselves, and, in those restless moments, for me, it used to always be on the way home from work. I knew that if I made it home from work, I wasn't going to use that day. And for the first 6 months, for the first year even, that was difficult for me. And so it's really just what are we going to do for our recovery today? Maybe traditional AA meetings aren't working for you. I have a group of guys that we meet up sometimes just on a Zoom call, or sometimes we just go over to each other's house. There's, a meeting is a group of 2 people. That's it, man. You need 2 people, 2 like-minded individuals, and an AA book. Not even an AA book, honestly, but, you're going to catch some flack from some of the old timers on that one. That's all I have written down for for this reading. It's really not my favorite reading, so I'm just going to jump into it. Today's email is from Chuck T in Raleigh, North Carolina, and it's more of a comment, but it really got me thinking, and I started talking to some of my kind of sober buddies about it. So Chuck T was in a situation recently where he didn't really know how to interview. He's been sober for 3 years, but he has a drug charge on his record, and he doesn't know, what do you wait for them to ask the question? That could be really, really complicated. And this situation really resonated with me because I have a similar situation. When you're trying to find a job and you have maybe some kind of, whether it be a felony or a misdemeanor on your record, navigating that, obviously if they ask the question and it comes up, you do your best to try to explain yourself. But if they don't ask the question, that's what he said. He's like, well, I've been in a situation where they don't ask the question, if I have any priors, and then they'll run my background check and they'll see one and they won't give me a chance. And I've been in that situation, and I think in my experience, because I did the same thing early on, I just kind of hoped that it slipped through the cracks, right? Like, let's just hope it doesn't come up. That's not the case in the world that we live in anymore. It's going to come up. So if they don't, at least that's just what I do. If they don't bring it up, bring it up. I bring it up. I say, hey, just so you know, I was a drug addict. I've been clean for, over 5 years. But I had a charge, take full responsibility, explain the charge, explain, maybe if you've completed any kind of rehab programs, but just be honest about it. And that's a huge thing for these addicts that, you come out of rehab, and a lot of us have a family. We have all these people that we want to make it up to. And for a lot of people, their options are go work that minimum wage job or go back to, maybe selling dope or selling drugs like you were before. And if that's the system and how it's set up, how are these people supposed to be successful? You can't support a family on a minimum wage job. I mean, and you're not going to walk away from, making $1,000 a week and being able to be home all the time. If it's such a hard situation. So Chuck T, hang in there and find a job and be honest, and someone will take a chance on you. It's all about, and if you know anyone who's hiring, have that conversation with them. Give people second chances. I mean, people do change. I know people who just can't change. I've known a few in my day, especially the older people who are just stuck in their ways. But people can change, and life is about second chances, and everything that we've overcame. If you're listening to this podcast, then chances are you survived, the opioid epidemic, a whole new drug called fentanyl, probably one of the craziest times with prescription drugs in history, and overprescribing. So we've already overcame so much, and I just don't think that it's fair to not give us a second chance. And I've seen so many articles where, we need to change the legislation to help the recovering addicts and this, that, and the other. And there's a lot of good ideas out there. And I'm not one to, solve all the problems, but I know what some of the problems are. And I mean, there's so many situations where these nonviolent, a lot of us are nonviolent offenders, and there's these programs, but these programs, either cost a lot of money or they, require you to pay off your restitution. And a lot of us, we were just terrible human beings in our addiction. So our restitution is, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, and how are you supposed to ever pay that back with a minimum wage job because nobody's giving you a chance? And I mean, those are questions for brighter minds to solve, I suppose. But anybody who's in a similar situation, just hang in there and keep being honest at your interviews, and somebody's going to give you a chance. And don't settle. All right, you guys deserve better, and someone will give you a chance. Okay, so last episode we got to the point where Amber had went to rehab. So Amber had gone to rehab, and I did not. I Suboxoned it up and thought I could do it on my own like an idiot. And when she got out, there was a lot of resentment because, she felt like she took the fall and went to rehab and had her whole addiction exposed while I was still, hiding in plain sight, which was true. I thought it was best at the time. I mean, some of the things that you think are for the best when you're in addiction are just so fucking terrible, and they make no sense. But you convince yourself that it's the best way forward. So she had a lot of resentment about that. I was set on getting sober extremely early on. The problem is I had all these attachments. I needed to be sober with Amber. You should just need to be sober. Everything else will work itself out. And that's something that I didn't know back then. You really got to take time to focus on yourself before you can, you're not going to be able to control this situation. You're going to have to let go of a lot of things and just work on yourself. But at that time, I had lost pretty much all my good connections. And by good connections, I meant like good dope connections. The only people who really came through me to buy were people who didn't have any options. Amber learned in rehab, and it's kind of funny. It's like that line from Blow with Johnny Depp. You went to jail with a minor in marijuana, and you came out with a doctorate in cocaine. It's kind of like that. Amber learned in rehab. Pretty much most of the girls in there were already telling these stories of what they called boosting, which was stealing shit and taking it back to other stores. And this was a whole industry. We started doing this with water filters from, Lowe's, Home Depot. I mean, we would go take 4 of these things that were worth about $60 each at, Lowe's, and go and do a no receipt return to another Lowe's and get a Lowe's gift card worth $240. And there was literally a store. It still exists in Cleveland that buys your gift cards. At the time, they were buying Lowe's, I want to say it was like 70 cents on the dollar. So, a $240 card was worth like 180 bucks. This opened a whole just Pandora's box of nonsense and charges, because before we figured out about this store that bought all your gift cards, we were selling them to, we would sell them to people that we met on Craigslist. There was this one guy that we met on Craigslist. I'm going to call him Charlie. Charlie would meet us all over the place in Lakewood and buy whatever we had. And his thing was he would pay 5% more than this store that we sold most of them to in Cleveland. But not only that, Charlie, on more than one occasion, would get us out of trouble. I mean, there was one time where Amber got arrested in Brooklyn, and we needed to come up with, I want to say $400, $500 to get her out. And I told Charlie about it, and he gave me the money right then and there to go and bail her out. Because he knew, I mean, we came to him every day with, $1,000, sometimes $1,500 worth of gift cards. So every day he would just knock, $80 off of what we owed him. And so this became a normal way of life. You do this for 2 months. Oh, Amber got arrested. Okay, we got another $500 from Charlie, and we got to work that off now. Okay, we do it for another 6 months. I get arrested. Okay, go bail him out of Bedford, and rinse, repeat. And at first, it was really just the water filters from stores like Home Depot and Lowe's. But after a little while, we began to realize that a lot of stores did no receipt returns, and more than that, a lot of products can go back to pretty much any store. UPCs are universal, so as long as the store sells that product, chances are they can return them. And a lot of the stores, believe it or not, didn't keep track of how much they sold of one item. Like, I remember Lowe's, I'm not going to say which location, but there was a Lowe's that just, me and Amber walked by the water filter section the one day, and it was the Lowe's that we always did the returns at. And the water filter section was just over fucking flowing with water filters. I mean, there's no way that their inventory, there's no possible way that they could have sold that many. So, and I mean, those are logical problems that logical people would probably be like, oh, they're not going to take these back. But, chances are you have a 17-year-old girl working that customer return desk, and she's just scanning shit and giving you your card. And that's what we found out too, was it got harder after time. But I mean, we did this for like 3 years, and it got harder after time, but chances are you could find that right person to be able to get the return off. And after a certain amount of time, they started to limit how many returns you could do with your ID at certain places, or the amount of money that you could return at a store without a receipt. It got to the point where we kept having to come up with ways to beat the system, to get these returns off, because we usually had just a car full of stolen merchandise that went back to multiple different stores. And it got harder and harder to get the returns off. So what we started doing was we would buy, we knew a bunch of other addicts, so we would buy their IDs off of them. And I would put my picture on it. I would remove the laminate. I would replace the laminate in a lot of cases. So I had, there was a time when I had like 30 IDs with my picture on them, but different addresses and different names. One time we actually got arrested, me and Amber, for, it was like a, $20 bag of heroin that we bought, and we got pulled over right after. It was like a setup. And the cop that went through our car, he found this just gigantic stack of IDs, because it was the ones that basically we already returned everything from every store. You know, we hit Target, we hit Walmart, we hit Home Depot, we hit Lowe's with every one of those IDs. I have no idea why I kept them in my glove box, but for some reason they were in my glove box, because that's where I kept the dead IDs, you know? And he's going through this huge stack, and I remember him asking me, he was like, "Why do you have all these IDs?" You know, in like the most serious, with the most serious face. And I looked at him, and I remember out being like, "People leave their IDs in my car." And he's like, "Man, get the fuck out of here. How do 30 people leave their IDs in your car and you're just stacking them up?" And he just couldn't figure it out. And at the time, we thought we were just so much smarter than everyone, right? No one was ever going to catch us. We got this all figured out. And I mean, somebody got arrested. I'm not sure if it was me or Amber. I really don't know, but somebody got arrested, and the other one went to Charlie, got the money, and bailed him out. And this was a normal life to us. I mean, we would go from city to city. We wouldn't hit the same place. We had it mapped out. I mean, we literally had a notebook that we would keep track of where we hit, you know, every day. And we wouldn't go back to the same place for at least 4 or 5 weeks. So, and every day we would hit, you know, 4 or 5 stores. I mean, there was Target, Walmart, Bed Bath & Beyond, I mean, Lowe's, Home Depot, Marshalls, TJ Maxx, Macy's. I mean, the list just kept going, and we kept finding more. You know, after you really start running out of them, you start thinking, oh, you know, I wonder if, you know, Michael's would take back a no receipt return. And it turns out they do. So that lights up every one of those 30 IDs for a run at Michael's now. You know, even if it's $100 limit, you know, you're hitting one of those every single day. And it's wild what you come up with to come up with the money to do the drugs. And I mean, doing that for 3 years, getting, you know, between $1,000 and $1,500 a day in gift cards, and literally only taking Sunday off. And I mean, only sometimes. Usually we would go out on Sundays. You do the math. I mean, it was crazy. It was crazy. It was unsustainably nuts. And it was the definition of insanity. You're listening to Beyond Dope. New episodes available every Friday. To email us with your questions or comments, please reach out to us at beyonddopepodcast@gmail.com. And I'm sure you're thinking, you know, how did you possibly do this for 3 years? And the answer is, we didn't do it in the same location. I mean, we would take stuff from one location and then drive to another location to return it. And we went as far out as Indiana and Pennsylvania and all the way down to Columbus. And I mean, you know, we're from the Cleveland area. So, I mean, we put a lot of miles on, and we kept track of where we went. And it fed our addiction. Honestly, her going to that first rehab by herself gave her that idea and kept our addiction going for years. And I've never really thought about that until now. Um, because if you just go until the money's up, you're going to be done pretty quick. I mean, we had a lot of things going on. I had a lot of things going on, especially in the drug and gambling world, and a lot of money coming in from a lot of different avenues. And before long, I was broke, and every opportunity was exhausted. It only took a few years. And then you figure out new ways. You start running these insane cons, and before you know it, you're running a theft ring. You're fucking picking people up and having them do these returns because you got a trunk full of merchandise, and 60 IDs that you've used, and you're running out of ideas, so you're just going to pay this other addict $40 to go do this $200 return for you. And if we get arrested, we'll go to Charlie, we'll get the money, and we will bond out, and we'll keep going. And that became normal life. And for holidays, for Christmas, we just did more. And, we would buy presents for my son. And, if we needed groceries, we would just do more and buy groceries. Whatever we needed, we went, took something from one store, went and returned it to another one, went and sold the gift cards, and figured it out. It was a really crazy fucking life for a while, in both of our lives. And this was the period of just insanity. It really was. I mean, before it was a lot of drug use, and it was pretty nuts, with all the schemes that we had early on, and all the other avenues of bringing in money. But the boosting, the stealing shit and returning it was where it got really nuts. It got really out of hand, and it got there really fast. Okay, so I just have to take a minute and just say thank you guys so much. I've gotten such a great response. You guys have been writing me emails. You guys have been, liking everything and listening to everything. And I even got a couple of reviews. Thank you so much. Just every once in a while getting that email from somebody that says that, they resonated with, a certain part resonated with them. I can't tell you how much that means to me, and it's more than I could have ever hoped for. So keep the emails coming, keep the questions coming, and or just reach out, Beyond Dope Podcast at gmail.com, or hit us up on Facebook or Instagram. That is going to be all the time I have for today. Remember, guys, keep putting one foot in front of the other, one day at a time. Thanks so much. You're listening to Beyond Dope. New episodes available every Friday. To email us with your questions or comments, please reach out to us at beyonddopepodcast@gmail.com. It didn't take long for a few of those people who were reaching out to tell me, hey, I could give you a good deal if you buy 7 grams or 14 grams or things like that. And we would, before you knew it, I was buying, 7 or 14 grams at a time, cutting the shit and selling it out of my parents' house. I mean, it progressed really quickly, and the connection that I had, I had 2 really good ones. I mean, this was a guy who, if I needed an ounce of dope, I could just go pick it up, even if I didn't have any money. I mean, at the time, I thought that connections like that maybe were all over the place. I was young and stupid, but those connections really don't exist, as I would find out once I lost this connection, and I mean, it's reputation too. Once you, in addiction, once you start screwing people over, I mean, they obviously stop trusting you pretty fast, and you can lose that trust really quickly. These were people who I had dealt with for years in weed or pills or things of that nature. So they knew if I told you I was going to be back with the money, I'd be back with the money, and usually that's how it went. I had a pretty good supply chain, and I would have them just pull right into the driveway and run it out to them. Sometimes I'd have Amber do it. If I wasn't home. Plus, I still had the bookie stuff going on, so I still had pretty good money coming in with that. So if my debt to my dealer went up a little bit, or if maybe I owed him $700, I mean, or $1,700, whatever. They knew that I was good for it, so there was never a time when I got cut off completely. So. But I crossed that line without even thinking about it at all. So, and I mean, really in no time, I was selling a lot of heroin and maintaining our habit, which is crazy, because you don't think you can do it, and then once you start doing it, and once you're around all those drugs, you just keep wanting more, and you keep wanting more. And just like the movies, once you get involved with something like that, it's all bad. Before you know it, you're doing way too much, and then what you're selling, you're cutting into just nothing. They're basically picking up baking soda from you, because you already did all the drugs, because they can't keep up with you. So, I mean, we had aggressively terrible habits, and that went on for maybe a year and a half, something like that, before I really exhausted a lot of my good connections. And if I wanted to sell, I had to, come up with the cash and go buy something. And even then, the connections weren't as good, the dope wasn't as good, so I ended up screwing that situation up. One thing I will say is I was terrified of needles, and that played a big part in, because we snorted heroin for years. I mean, we only used the needles for the last, I want to say, 2 years of our addiction. And, it was a long time of just snorting the drugs before we started shooting them. But I'm getting ahead of myself there. Once things ran out a little bit and I had to pay cash up front for the drugs, things changed big time. I was relying more heavily on, the money coming in from taking bets. I was relying wholly on whatever shitty job I was working at the time. That check would come in and that check would be gone. Literally, I would pay somebody back with it or buy $700 worth of dope with it, and someone would come over. I'd make $300 back, and it was just this cycle of just a terrible existence. But it progressively got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. You know how that goes. And eventually, Amber started stealing stuff from really anywhere that she was, to be honest. But one of the big ones was from her grandparents. She took some gold necklaces, and this was really expensive shit. It was like $2,000 in gold that she took and went to go sell it at a pawn shop, got the money, and we went and got high. Now, I would always tell her, like, we could find a different way. I was not, even in my addiction, I was not about stealing from family. But, there were definitely times when I would lie to whoever I was getting the money from about what I was using it for. So, isn't that stealing in itself? I couldn't go into somebody's jewelry box and just take their shit. Especially when, back then, let me change that, because back then I definitely could have done that, okay? But from family, I couldn't do that. I just couldn't bring myself to do that. But Amber knew that if she did it and then got back to the house with the money, what was I going to do? I'm not going to call them and tell them, hey, your granddaughter just stole necklaces from you for drug money, So that was the way she went about doing that most of the time. She would do it, and then I wouldn't find out that she did something until I got a call from some family member wondering if I saw this, or Amber told me, this is where she got that money from. But on this occasion, her parents actually got involved because her grandfather went to her father, and her father immediately came to our house. And I wasn't hiding it. I came right out with it. I wanted her to get help, and I was still, I was ignorant. I was ignorant. I was dumb. I was addicted. I was the worst version of myself, because I thought that if Amber got help at rehab, because I was working at the time, so I figured, okay, I'll keep working and I'll take care of our son, and she'll get clean, and I'll get clean while she's gone. I'll take Suboxone, I'll wean myself off, and that's what we'll do. Sounds good, right? I was young, I was stupid, and so she went away to rehab while I went to work, and I would go visit her on the weekends with our son. And that was a big mistake of mine. I should have just came out to everybody with everything that was going on. I should have let my son be, let my mom and our families watch over, our son, and we should have both went in and got help right then and there. Instead, I tried to keep working, and I tried to do it myself like an idiot. and it didn't work. I just got addicted to Suboxone, truly, and I was paying for that. So eventually I stopped taking Suboxone and got back on drugs. Then when Amber got out, we had maybe 4 or 5 days of sobriety. And by sobriety, I mean she's sober and I'm lying to her about Suboxone. And that would be a common theme for us throughout our addiction. It seemed like there was a lot of times when one person was ready to do it and the other person just was not. And it goes back to what we talked about with codependency. I mean, it makes it so hard because you're trying to take this person with you on this sobriety journey, and nobody's ever ready together. I feel. I mean, I did see a post the other day about this couple that made it, and that's so cool. I mean, congratulations to them. And every once in a while, you see or hear about these couples that made it through, or husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend that made it through, and that makes me. I mean, really, that's got to be so fucking hard, and that is such an accomplishment. And I commend those people who can somehow make it through. God knows we tried every which way, and just like so many other people. And when you're in addiction, you're already not thinking clearly. So you're used to not listening to people's advice. I mean, so many people were trying to tell me like, "Hey, man, it doesn't work. You gotta be sober yourself first. Maybe you guys could find each other again, but you guys each have to be sober and separate for a decent amount of time, and then maybe reintroduce yourselves to each other." And I mean, you think, no, we don't need to do that. I'm the one, we're the couple that's going to make it, right? True love conquers all, and we're going to do this together, and we're not like you guys, right? I mean, that's how everybody thinks, especially in addiction. And that's just not the case. I'd say, I mean, it's got to be a high percentage, but I mean, I don't know what it is. 95% of the time. I mean, most of the time it just doesn't work out for couples. But I'm way over time, so I'm gonna leave it there for today. Reach out to us, email. Please like us on Facebook. Keep putting one foot in front of the other, guys. One day at a time. Thanks.